Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Jade, and this is How to App on iOS. And today, we have one of the biggest powerhouse vocalists around.
James Timms, man!
Yeah. And this show is sponsored by DistroKid today. We love DistroKid. Thank you, DistroKid. We're going to kick off with a James Timms track called Free.
I feel like a stone amongst flowers grown. Oh, no movement for me. I guess I just watch TV. Maybe I should try more. See what lives outside the door. There's a whole world to see, but I'm living through a screen. If you can stay and I can be more human, we'll be free, Oh, I feel like a stone, almost flowers grow. Oh, no more for me, I guess I'll just watch TV. Maybe if you can stay and I can be more human, we'll be free, Oh, if you can stay and I can be more human. More human, we'll be free, Oh, can stay, and I can be more human, we'll be free, If you can stay. And I can be more human, we'll be free, Oh, if you can stay, and I can be more human, we'll be free.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, folks. I hope you're all doing good. Welcome to the show. Let me stop the sounds in the background there. Hey, what is happening? It's early in the morning here as usual, 7 a.m. And I've got my coffee and everything's good because I'm drinking from a mug that says the right things. And it's the end of the weekend. It's Songtember. It's the second week. I hope everyone's having a good time doing their Songtember song. I'm doing all right. I'm doing okay. A little bit of pressure, but it's all good. You know what I'm saying? So welcome everybody to the chat. I'll go out and say hello to you all a little bit later on in the show as we go on, like we normally do, because we want to get into the interview. But today, yes, we have an amazing artist on the show. And first, before I do anything, I must do this because I love doing it indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, today's show is brought to you by DistroKid. And we love DistroKid. DistroKid. What is DistroKid? DistroKid is an amazing service that allows you to put all of your music online through services like Spotify, Amazon, Apple Music. There's so many, it's ridiculous. Even Facebook, even Instagram, even Snapchat, you can get your music there. And it's really, really easy to do. For $19.99 US a year, you can do as many tracks as you want, singles, albums, whatever you want. For a single artist, it's really, really worth your time. And if you use the code that is down in the description, which is, Thomas just put up here. Thank you very much, Thomas. distrokid.com/VIP/Jade Starr. You'll get 7% off your first year, which is always handy. Yeah. And get onto it because DistroKid rocked. You can see here on the screen, they've got 3 tiers that you can sign up with. The Musician plan, the Musician Plus plan, if you would like to have 2 artists, or the Label plan for $79.99 a year, which I use because I have multiple artists, yeah? I have 5, 6 or 7 artists. So you can get 5 with the Label plan and up to 100 if you would like to purchase more. But we will talk a little bit more about DistroKid as we go on in the show. And I've got some cool things to show you today that you maybe didn't know you could do with DistroKid. Yeah? Awesome. So thank you very much, DistroKid, as always, for sponsoring today's show. Shall we get to today's guest? I've been wanting this artist on for ages, man. Ages, because his voice is incredible. Every time I listen to him, I feel like I'm hearing Peter Gabriel smashed together with Sepultura. Such contrasting styles. His voice is so powerful and strong. He's a fantastic musician. And I know there's a lot of people in this community who just love his voice, just from me sitting around and watching shows like Ron Ward and Pete Johns and Metalhead Hippie. Every time his songs come up, there's always a absolute crap load of comments from people saying, this dude's voice is amazing. And yes, I am talking none other than the amazing, James Timms. I'd like to bring him onto the show right now. What's going on, James? Welcome to the show.
Cheers, thank you. Amazing to be here.
Amazing. It's the word of the day. What am I doing? I hate falling into these pits of words, man. I do it. I was doing a few weeks ago. It was actually, and I kept saying actually.
Yeah. Obviously, basically.
Yeah. Basically, yeah. It's one of those terms. Thank you so much, firstly, for coming on the show. I know you work incredibly hard, and, you know, to make time to do this, that's always so, I'm very thankful to have you on. Do you
No problem at all.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about that song that we opened up with today?
Yeah, so Free is basically, so until relatively recently, I've done mostly sort of pop type music, pop, soul, with a bit of trap, sort of rocky sort of vibes. And I made the decision that I was going to move to more heavy sort of rock. So I needed a kind of a transitionary song, somewhere between the sort of soul and rock, where I wanted to take it. So yeah, Free came. So effectively, it started off as really quite a heavy rock song, and then I pulled way back on the guitars, replaced them with synths, and it turned out the way it did.
It's interesting because I went through the songs that you sent me to play today, and that song felt like that. It felt like this was a moment where things change, and that's why I opened with it, because I think I said to you at the start, today I want to build up and start with that, and as we go forward, ramp it up. So by the end, your faces will be melting in the audience, because that's what I like to hear.
I think it's been a bit of a ride for I suppose my listeners, so to speak, because I've gone from doing soul on trap music to effectively thrash metal in the space of 6 months. So I might surprise a few people,
I think that keeps artists people interested. Now, because I'm a very similar artist, whenever people start enjoying something that I'm doing, I normally put it down and go do something totally different, just to throw stones at people. I don't know if that's counterproductive, but it has worked, I guess, in the past. I think it's interesting to keep people on their toes. Do you get bored easily with styles and things that you're doing?
Yes and no. I find with the pop stuff, I really did start to get quite bored with it because it becomes, you've got to almost deliberately write generically, because if it stands out from the crowd too much, then you sort of take away from pop, and then you're not going to land in any pop playlists, and it sort of defeats the entire object of what you were starting out to do anyway. With the rock stuff, less so, because that's what I listen to. So if I'm going to be listening to anything, normally it's going to be something pretty heavy. So yeah, I've ended up, and that's what I'm going to make.
Yep. All right, I'm going to hit you with the 4 questions that I normally hit everybody with and get into it. James, what does music mean to you?
That's a very narrow question, isn't it? What does music mean to me? I mean, I don't want to say everything because that sounds like a cliche, but I kind of, as you'll know, I put out a lot of music. You could probably call it obsessive amounts, like a song a week, probably spending anywhere from 10 to 20 hours a week writing, recording, producing, getting it all done. So it's yeah, it's kind of an obsession. It's something that I physically cannot stop doing, and I don't think I ever will.
So in your obsession making music, how easy do you find it to make music? Is it something that flows easily? Do you have to make time to make music, or?
I've got to be in the right mood for it. But generally speaking, yeah, it's something that sort of just happens. I don't want to sound like an arsehole, but it's a relatively straightforward process for me. I think I've been doing it that long now that I've got a bit of a process. I've got a model that I stick to. The structures that I work to tend to be quite similar. And I think, especially when it comes to the structure of a song and melody writing and good melody writing, that gets a lot easier with time. The more you do it, the better you get at it, and it becomes a lot more intuitive, and you don't have to spend as much time with these things. You can sort of trust your gut a bit more. And then on I suppose the more scientific side, when it comes to the production side of things, when you've been using the same, like I've been using Garageband now on this Mac for the best part of 10 years. So I know it inside out, and I've got 10 years worth of presets on there, whether it's the guitars, the vocals, the mastering, whatever. So when it comes to the actual process of putting a song together at the end, that's actually pretty quick as well, because I've already got my sounds sort of nailed in. So it's just like anything, really. It's become easier with time, and because I've done so much of it, it's progressively become more intuitive.
Yeah, I think it comes down to backing yourself too, understanding where you go, and it's not a bad trait. Some people kind of look at things like backing yourself or believing in yourself as being arrogant or pig-headed or arrogant or up yourself, but understanding your limitations and knowing your processes and backing yourself is very important as a vocalist. I'm sure backing yourself, because you definitely don't have an inside voice.
No, it's something that I notice in the singers that I like. So the singers that I listen to are people that you would hear if they sung next door. So and what I really value in a vocalist is effort. If I can't hear that someone's belting it out, then it doesn't really speak to me. I can't feel it. And it's the same for me when I'm delivering something. If I'm not really howling it, I feel like I'm not doing it properly.
Absolutely. So do you recall the music that was played in your household growing up from your parents? And
I do.
Who are these artists, and have they influenced you in any way?
So I would say the 2 biggest influences from music played at home would probably be Wham, good old George, and Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson specifically, when he does that little gravelly tone in his voice?
Yeah, the growl.
That spoke to me immediately when I was a kid. And then I think since then, I've followed that sort of vocalist. That's the sort of vocal that's spoken to me. So yeah, I like aggressive music, basically. I don't like music that's vanilla or middle of the road. Like that song, Free, as much as, I back it, I think is a good song. It's not one of the songs that I would say, yeah, this is really me. That's it's quite vanilla. I like something that really bites and sort of makes you you know, and you stick your chin out and that's the sort of stuff that, you know, makes your balls switch a bit.
Nice. So Michael Jackson. Now look, and I remember Michael Jackson when I was young. The first Michael Jackson song I ever heard, I remember as a kid, was Ben, and I fell in love with that song because it's just so well sung. Like, and then the next thing was Thriller, and I don't know if it was actually Thriller that really did it for me, or it was the music video by John Landis that because he did American Werewolf in London. That dude who shot that Thriller clip, and that thing just
crazy video. Wasn't it like the most expensive video that had ever been done?
Yeah, and it basically set the standard of, you know, music videos, especially for just Michael Jackson, because he was always trying to top himself every video after that. I don't know if he ever did.
No, it's do you remember that weird one he did with his sister?
Oh, we could talk about a lot of weird things with Michael Jackson.
Well, yeah, he did a lot of weird stuff. Probably again with his sister, but that's for another day.
Who knows?
Supposedly, should any lawyers be watching?
I don't think they're going to be watching this. I think they're going to be counting their money. Too busy counting their money. Yeah, Russ says here in the audience, the original was a 12-minute video, the original Thriller. It had the whole popcorn
it had like
scene.
a full-on storyline.
Yeah, they're at the cinema eating popcorn. She was scared. Then they left, and then it all started, and then there's that whole ending too. There was a kind of little bit Blair Witch Project before its time, I think, if I recall.
Yeah. Right. I tell you what, Billie Jean, explain that video to me. What's that glowing? It is the one with the glowing pavement, isn't it?
Yeah, I.
So, what's that a metaphor for? What's the deeper meaning there?
I don't know.
Or is it just a glowing pavement?
Don't ask me to get inside the mind of Michael Jackson.
No, you need a ladder to get out.
I may end up in court, allegedly. So I don't...
Yeah, allegedly.
You got to either use allegedly or in Minecraft these days. In Minecraft works in court as well. All right, we've gone down a weird path, and this show always does, which I love. Do you remember the first album that you purchased and was given to you as a gift? So 2 of them.
I don't remember the first album given to me. I remember the first single given to me, and it was on, I think it was my 13th birthday, and it was Britney, I think, Hit Me Baby One More Time, because that was #1 in the charts. And then shortly after that, I went out and bought The Offspring, Conspiracy of One.
Oh, wow, what a difference.
Yeah, so I went in deep on the punk back then.
That it's interesting, you know, because that really reflects where you're at now. You know, you've got this softer side that you can pull out, and then there's this hard side that it's very, very telling. I think you know.
Yeah, I think it's always been that's like I say, angry dad music. It went from punk to emo to I suppose new metal to basically any new fad that came out where they had some weird haircut that could piss off your parents. I was on it.
Right, talking about angry music, because I've been a metalhead my entire life. I remember at school I was sitting outside, year 7, had my Walkman. I was listening to probably the blandest music of all time, and somebody came over and put some headphones on me and said, "Listen to this," and it was Slayer, Rain in Blood, and it changed my entire life. It was 1986, and then I became a murderer. And that's allegedly, but and forever people have said stuff like, "But don't you think heavy metal's too angry and stuff like this?" Are you an angry person? Is that what draws you to this? Like, I've always been, people have labeled me, "Are you angry? Is that why?"
Anyone that thinks that metal is for angry people should go to a metal gig. You just see a load of really happy chubby guys with beards all hanging out, throwing up horns. Woo! Like, don't get me wrong, from a distance it's probably quite scary, but if you actually talk to these guys, the only thing that's scary about them is they're wearing black and they've got a beard.
Oh, well, it's not always black because most of their shirts have gone grey because they've owned them for so long.
Yeah, you can normally see some piercings through there. There's a nice. What I will say is there's normally an odor. That's
absolutely.
That's a consistent thing at a good metal gig. Like I went to Killswitch Engage not too long ago. That was Fausty.
Yeah, absolutely. It's weird that metal got lumped into such horrible things. I think during the PMRC times when in the States when they went against, they tried to take down metal, was a very interesting time.
Yeah. Everything was satanic.
Yeah, and they're even it's happening again. Where I think music and trends go in 20-year cycles. Flares seem to come back every 20 years, and every 20 years these do-gooders keep coming back and saying, Satan's taking over, and we're in those times right now. It feels like that again.
Yeah. My thing with metal is I think most people that listen to metal are people that tend to really appreciate music, so it's almost like an alternative form of classical music because it's really complex. It's not particularly easy to listen to. It's deliberately challenging. There's weird time signatures and all this sort of stuff in that. It's deliberately meant to challenge you while you're listening to it, so you're not just sort of bopping along. I mean, have a listen to Tool and try and nod your head to it. You just can't. So it's I think it's what I like is it's music that people have had to think to make, and it's not pandering to anyone.
Yeah, totally.
And on your other point about that thing in society, I completely agree. I think I think what's happened is we've gone from being not politically correct enough to then now being overly politically correct, and it's just divided two sides, and then it just becomes because most people sit somewhere in the middle, but what you've just got two wildly vocal sides on either end of the spectrum, and that just creates conflict across the whole thing. So it's just arseholes make the most noise, unfortunately.
It is, isn't it? I mean, it just comes down to the people who use logic are going to be okay. But if once you start getting too extreme on one side or the other, you become illogical.
Well, what I find is that people have started supporting ideologies like team sports. Like at no point does it matter now if anything's actually wrong or right. It just because you've now backed it, you can't change your mind. Now I backed this team. Yeah. Well, that's that's bizarre. I felt it with the whole, especially in politics. I felt it with the whole. Obviously, I'm not American, but with Trump, I felt that people felt that they were supporting him like he was a football team. So if he did wrong, it wasn't a case of he's fucked up. It's like no, he'll come back. It's like guys, he's the president. He's not supposed to do that.
He doesn't care about you. Look, I moved to America, James, in 2016 to 2018 during that whole kerfuffle when he got elected. And I'm not going to slag either side right now. Whatever, people know where I sit. But it was bizarre. I went to an American football game and I found there was more like fandom for politics than actually at a sports game. Like it had become the politics.
It's weird.
So
I think the media have pushed it so far over it.
Yeah, and I think we both grew up in a time where you hated politicians. Politicians are assholes, man. Yeah. They take your money and they waste it on shit. And then it's always been the way. And then the next party comes in and wastes it on shit. And that's the way it's always been, But for some reason, we're holding them to this like godlike status. It's weird. And getting back to how we got onto this is back in the day with metal. Politics actually used metal to have an agenda, to push a whole Christian agenda with the PMRC. They used, they took records off the shelves. They took like Cannibal Corpse, all these albums off the shelves, and they tried to sue bands and all this stuff. We went through stuff with Judas Priest going to court. It was such a weird time when, as you said, with metal. The weirdest thing, the most grossest thing about metal I can ever remember is sometimes the smell of pits. That's about it. But everything else,
that's it. Everyone gets a bit sweaty.
Yeah, but these days,
it's not an issue.
These days, when you go into a pit, everyone smells like sunsilk. So it's quite a bit different these days.
It's been a while since I've been in a pit. But just to go back to your point, right? Like. Me and the missus are a big fan of serial killer documentaries.
Yes,
don't know why, but I like to go to sleep listening about how some organs have been harvested. settles the nerves. But in how many of those serial killer documentaries have you seen metal music effectively being used as evidence of someone being demonic?
Yeah.
Oh, he listened to demonic music. What?
Yeah.
My next door neighbor listens to demonic music. He also just sits in with his 2 cats all night. Like, what? I don't see what the relevance of the tunes he listens to has on anything.
I don't know. You put on Kylie Minogue, and that feels demonic to me. So
Yeah. And why did no one ever reference what music Ted Bundy was listening to? Like, there was no thing like, oh, before he went out raping and that, he was on the Beatles.
Exactly.
It's just not relevant.
Yeah, it's only certain serial killers who get what's his name, the Night Stalker. They always go to the Night Stalker because he listened to metal. It's weird. It is so strange. In fact, metal to me is what probably kept me alive. It's such a club that when you're young, you felt like you didn't fit in anywhere, but metal just let you be who you were and didn't judge you. And and it was all about the music too. That was about, and it was metal is about the music. It at the end of the day, when it gets down to it, it really is about the music. That's why no one cares about like, hey, this dude stinks or this dude's this. We don't care. What album are you listening to? It's really based around music. So
yeah, no, it's completely. Well, yeah. When I was a kid, it was all we were like the emos. But for me, being able to actually have a group to be a part of was something completely new, effectively, because I'd always been sort of like that outlying jock kid. I was decent at sports, but I was always a bit geekier than the rest of them.
You're right.
So as soon as I sort of hit 16, 17, started playing in emo bands, and then all of a sudden it was like, I found my people.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened with me. So let's talk about. We'll play a song because we've chatted for a bit. So I'm gonna grab a song. Let's do.
Cool.
Let's get a bit heavier. I'm gonna pick Far now.
Okay.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about Far before we play it, and then we'll come back and say hello to everybody in the chat.
So yeah, this is probably just as I started progressing to going into what you'd actually call heavy. There's a part of this that I really like I think it's in the chorus, where there's a particularly high note for me anyway, that I have to hit, and it effectively breaks my voice, and I lost my voice for about 24 hours after hitting it. But it sounds great, and again, I suppose it speaks of that fact that I love to hear that effort. I love to hear that sort of you've really pushed it. So you'll hear it in this. The neighbours would hear this one.
I hope mine doesn't. I think he's got a meth problem. He keeps banging on my wall each night, telling me he's going to kill me.
Oh.
Whatever. Good times.
Sounds cool.
I've never met him, but hey, whatever, man. All right, this is Far by James Timms, folks. Chill, relax for a few minutes, get into this, bang your head, do the things that make you happy at the end of the day. Let's play it, and we'll be back shortly. As Hippie would say, boom.
Cool.
two cents. Oh no. Woo. Keep thinking this is too intense to commence. Oh, maybe it's just my preference. I keep on living in this pretense. Oh, yeah. Feel the flame and take the blame. Oh, feel the flame and take the blame. Oh, feel the flame and take the blame. Oh, feel the flame. Feel the flame. Feel it burn. You can own it. You can learn. Feel the flame. Feel it burn. You can own it. You can learn. Take the blame. Wear the scar. If you want it, you'll go far.
There we are. We're back. I was enjoying that too much. I think I was headbanging in my chair. Dude, powerful, powerful, powerful voice, as everybody agrees in the chat. Let's talk about your voice. So at school, were you somebody who had singing lessons or any kind of musical lessons at school?
I mean, in the UK, we sort of had compulsory music lessons up until you're all, I think, 13 or 14. I didn't then take music as a topic to study, but I suppose I first got into a band then when I was about 17. I effectively went to a band practice with a mate who was a guitarist. I'd never really done any singing outside of like school shows where I'd just been an extra doing something in the back. And one of the guys was trying to sing a Fall Out Boy song. They had the music down, but he was really struggling with the vocals. And I was like, well, I could probably do that. So I got it, I gave it a go. And then, yeah, we were together for about 2 or 3 years after that. Played some half-decent gigs too. And that was sort of the start of my band career. And then I've been in a couple of sort of nothing to mention little emo bands that played a couple of gigs here and there and didn't do a lot. And then for the best part of 7 or 8 years, I was fronting a big 10-piece show band, doing all soul music, Wilson Pickett, Stevie Wonder, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, basically spent most of my life doing some form of singing one way or another. I didn't really realize that until I thought about it recently.
But did they teach you the recorder at school? That's the burning question on everybody's lips.
Yeah, I can play that. You know that one really horrible tune?
The one
that makes your arsehole twitch.
The one horrible tune. I thought all tunes on recorded made your asshole twitch.
No, you misunderstand me. Recorders can only play one tune.
Oh yeah,
and it's something like.
not to people who are really into recorders. They're like,
oh yeah, but I mean, I'm happy to piss all 3 of them off.
All right, hey, look, 3 people just left the chat. What's going on? Damn, they all happen to be on this show. What the hell? Let's say hello to everybody here today. So, guys, if you want me to call your name, type something in the chat right now so I don't have to go scrolling. It helps me, but I'll do my best. We've got audible video here. Joe and Barry Glenn, Russ8889, Lou Reality, Thomas Christ, Zach Thong, Lady Rodeline Straight is here. Who else do I see? Sean Chandler. Hello, my friend. I saw Tom Caraho Music, Howling Fred Fumbler, Stu Cash, Nigel Parker, Pete Johns, also Mr. Smith. Let's see, Deep Gravity. Thank you, boo. SM Borthwick. Thank you, my friend. For Barry Glenn. Joe is crying. Brad Example. So lots of people here. If I've missed you, just slap me around the head. Or quickly get in your comment now because I'm going to move on with the interview. You know, can't speak. Oh, and by the way, guys, if you are a Wart Warrior and you are a member of the channel, check your emojis because there's some new emojis and there's a James Timms limited edition emoji in there. So I expect lots of you to fill the chat up with lots of James Timms faces, yeah? Where is it? Can I find it? There it is. Let me put a few in to kick off. Let me put in a few. Boom! There's some James Timms right there. There they go. Awesome stuff. All righty. So you start playing, because when I went through your Facebook page, which sounds creepy, but you know, I had to find a photo. I had to find some photos.
But that's okay.
But I needed some photos, didn't I? You know, to use.
I didn't send them over, to be fair. So I did give you license.
Hey, and that's, you know, these things happen. I know you're busy, so I just went ahead and tried to find. Luckily, you know, that's good. You had heaps of promo shots, so that's really cool. But what I did notice in amongst your photos were many photos of you playing live in bands. So and this has got to be a thing. So you said you've been playing what, 7 years? Was it 7 years? You said, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So I played. So the soul band went for about 7 years, right up until COVID.
Yep.
But I'll be honest, I was a kind of a victim of my own success with it, in that we got so busy that with the job that I do anyway, which is pretty intense, doing 1-2 shows a week plus a rehearsal during the week as well, I ended up working like 80 hours a week every week. And then you come up to like December around Christmas, you end up doing 12 gigs in the space of 3 weeks. And it just burned. Every January for about 5 years, I was just absolutely wiped out and completely ill. So it was great and I loved it. And like we did some awesome shows. Like towards the end, we headlined this festival, playing to 5,500 people in a place called Monmouth. That was just unbelievable. I think it was a full 2-hour set we did there as well. We've played with the Animals. I can't remember. Yeah, sure, it's the Animals. I can't remember the famous song that they did. How's the Rising Sun? We supported them. So we played some like really cool gigs and some really cool venues, but it just got to the point where I didn't enjoy it anymore. As well as that, with COVID, I got to be able to work on my own stuff a lot more, write a lot of my own stuff, produce more of my own stuff, and get it sounding a lot closer to where I felt like it sounded like the music that I was listening to. And when you've written so much of your own music, it gets hard going back to singing, you know, Mustang Sally 3 sets a week.
And you would have the absolute perfect voice to sing Mustang Sally. I've sung it a bunch of times on my opening hour and just love to get Mustang Sally. Oh, I love the growl. You know, as a singer myself, it really turns me on.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan. Have you ever seen The Commitments?
Oh, of course.
Called The Commitments.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
of course.
So the band I was in, we were effectively that. We looked like that. We sounded like that. We started off doing tiny little shows in little pubs, and by the time we got 3 years in, we were doing big festivals and sort of big corporate events. So it was a really cool ride, and it was quite a sad thing to leave because I felt I sort of left them in the lurch a bit. But we got to the point where the last rehearsal I went to do with them, I literally had a panic attack. It got to the point where I'd completely had to walk off, couldn't do it. And that was effectively it.
Wow. So, I mean, because it's interesting, like about covers, because, you know, they make money. They pay bills. But
depressingly so.
yeah, and look, it's always been this way. This is nothing new.
Yeah.
You know, I can go back 30 years ago when I was living in Sydney, and it was the same arguments. People going, we can't get gigs anywhere because they're all full of assholes with a keyboard and guitar just doing covers for like 6 hours straight and getting paid up the wazoo. But and then moving then to be an original artist, it can be a little disheartening where you're like, hang on a minute, I'm much better than these covers. Listen to what I'm doing.
Well, I have never, ever done a gig as me, ever, right? I am fairly confident. I say I'm fairly confident. I'm fairly confident I could go and make a decent living doing covers on my own in a pub singing to a backing track. I could get 3 or 4 bookings a week, make 200-300 quid a night, live a nice, comfortable life. But it takes all of whilst covers are great and they do serve a purpose, for me, it would take the joy out of why I do music, and it's the creative element. The reason I do music is because I have to make it. The performing side of it is great. It's not actually a part that I enjoy massively, unless I enjoy it once I've done it. I hate the lead up to it. But yeah, I much prefer the creative process of making something, even knowing that no one's going to listen to it and it's just going to disappear into the internet, than doing a cover and having 500 people come and watch it, which again is, I don't know, that's probably depressing on a couple of fronts. But I suppose if you've done covers for the best part of 10 years, then it'll probably get to that point.
Well, there's definitely people listening, so don't ever think that no one's listening. I've been a fan of yours for a long time, and every time you drop something, I go over and listen to it. So, and there's definitely people who are listening to you. So, you know, and hey, man, it's never going to be like millions and millions if you're living in that.
Oh no, that's not what I'm doing it for.
But I know that. No, I'm just saying people in general. Not you specifically. If you are, you know, you're in the wrong business.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, but like there are bands. For example, even one of our own here, like the Indigo Sunsets, who when COVID hit, wrote this amazing album, and then once everything opened up again, started playing gigs, doing the usual covers that they used to do as a wedding band, and they've been slowly introducing these songs that they created during. So have you considered doing that? Like, you know, as you said,
the problem I've got is if I'm going to blend, especially with what I'm currently writing, if I'm going to go out and do covers and then mix my own stuff in, I'm going to be going and trying to find a pub where I can go and sing Kill Switch Engage. Just like, and that's a hard pitch to have walking in. So like, are you a big fan of Howard Jones? Yeah. It's not
try.
sort of dinner and dancing music, is it? So, and to start off, the reality is, I think you've got to play those crappy little pub gigs that 3 people turn up to, and there's more bands there than people, because that's I suppose your rite of passage.
Yep.
I don't think any band really makes it unless they've spent a year doing the shit gigs, sounding great, and eventually someone deciding to go, do you know what, it's worth you supporting someone half decent that's coming into the area, and then all of a sudden they get elevated. Yep. But I think it would be hard to, especially at my age, to find some 35-year-old guys that would take it seriously enough to push it. I think, it's unlikely. And it's a bit soul destroying. I don't know if I'd want to be singing to 3 people in pub, because I'm not trying to make it. So yeah, I don't know why I'd put myself through it.
It's interesting, you know. I know that speaking as a vocalist, who I put a lot of hours into being the best vocalist I can. It's hard to come by a fucking killer vocalist that has something. You're definitely one of those vocalists. Like, every time I hear your voice, I know the fuck that's you, without a doubt. Like, so I'm sure there would be a shitload of people who'd want you in their band. That's without a doubt. I want to touch on something that you brought up when you're playing in these cover bands. So you said you like had this whole panic, this whole anxiety, and how did this happen? How did you know this was going on? Because I want to know how this happened.
So the whole situation was actually kind of crazy. So COVID had happened. We hadn't played together for at least 2 years. We had a big gig lined up, venue capacity probably up to about 400 or 500 people, like a big bingo hall. So we went to do a rehearsal to sort of get ready for it and sort of check out the venue and all that sort of stuff. And our manager had firstly not told the venue that we were going to go there to do a rehearsal. And then secondly, when he'd spoken to the manager, decided that what we were going to do is set up and do our rehearsal in the 10 minutes in between bingo games that were happening just on a normal like Wednesday night. So there was like, I don't know, 150 people in there playing bingo. And we are then like, we're a 10-piece band, right? So you can imagine the noise a 10-piece band makes when it's set up. So we're getting evil eyes off all of these sort of, you know, grumpy old women that don't want us to be in there anyway. Then just before we're due to start, I think that we had a phone call off the drummer and said, the drummer's not going to be able to make it, so we've got a stand-in. He doesn't really know the songs and all this sort of stuff. We had a stand-in bassist at the last minute as well. Oh, wow. So we hadn't played together for 2 years. We've got a room of pissed off people in front of us. We've got equipment not working and feedback in it and screaming all over the place. And then all of a sudden, I just found myself stood there with all these pissed off women waiting to do karaoke, whilst I'm going, testing, 1, 2, 1, 2. And I just physically, like, it sounds stupid, but the pressure of it was just crazy. And unfortunately, God blessed me with quite an aggressive nature. So when I get pissed off, it's quite sort of, I get properly pissed off. So I basically got to the point where it was either going to be an internal explosion or an external explosion. So instead of me walking around and knocking my manager's head off, I basically just completely fell apart. So yeah, full hyperventilating, couldn't breathe. Anyone came near me, was ready to kill them. Like full blown. Yeah.
Wow.
Wasn't pleasant.
Yeah, it sounds. I'm sure many people can identify with that whole feeling. Like, you know, we all go through this stuff too. Mental health is something that a lot of people just still don't talk about in the music, and I try to do it on this channel because there's so much pressure, even as like independent artists ourselves, sitting here making our music in our little rooms. Even though you've got all this space to sing at your loudest and do all this stuff and do retakes, there still is pressure, and live performances too. I can't tell you how many breakdowns I've had at live gigs. It's the pressure is intense, and coming off of COVID, it's probably added to it. So how did you...
Well, I'd basically not been outside for 2 years.
Yeah.
So I hadn't been outside for 2 years, and then the first time I'd been outside, I was stood in front of 150 people who were like, fuck you.
If I was you, I would have grabbed the microphone and just gone, legs 11, 2 fat ladies, 88. I would have done that. Yeah. Fuck them. Fuck the old people. I'm not ageist.
Dangerous. They're dangerous women in bingo. They are dangerous women.
The blue rinse set.
Like if you are happy enough to go out on a Saturday night in your pajamas, you are dangerous. And you haven't been to the Welsh Valleys, so they may not do this in Australia, but in the valleys in Wales, that's all right. And it's almost like you're going out saying, go on, I dare you to say something about it, and I will stab you.
Man, they do that here at supermarkets. If you go out to a supermarket at 9 p.m. or after, every bitch is in their goddamn PJs. It's like, do you have no shame? What is going on? Like,
no, to be fair, if I had PJs, I'd probably do the same. But
there you go. You heard it first here, folks. Let's play another song, and we'll come back and talk more. Do you want to pick one out of the ones you gave me?
What have we got left?
We've got Done, Name on Your Lips, Screaming, Curse Me, Hourglass.
I'll tell you what, Curse Me, right? Because Curse Me is a bit out there. So did you watch the TV program Vikings?
Yes.
Right. So I obsessively watched Vikings. I basically had a week off work with my girlfriend, and we spent a week watching and completing all of Vikings, which, as you will know, is a lot.
Yeah.
To the point where my inner monologue became Uhtred. Like, I was waking up in the morning and my first thing coming to my mind was, I am Uhtred, which isn't a good place to be in. So to try and sort of put a cap on that, I wanted to do a bit of like I'd say it's a Viking, it's a Nordic style song. So I went big on the sort of war drums. I made a really, I think it was about 30 tracks in the end for the big choir vocal that goes in behind it all as well. So I really wanted to have that Viking sort of vibe. And then because I'm lazy, I stole a load of clips from the show Vikings and turned that into the video. But in terms of the song, it's a really weird song.
If I play the clip, will I get a claim on the video? I should ask that.
No, I don't think so.
You haven't had one? All right, cool. Then if you haven't had one, we're good. All right, let's play it. This is Curse Me, guys. We'll be back shortly, and enjoy. Let me get all my buttons sorted here. I think we're good. Oh, good. Let's do it. Boom.
I'm stood on the front line. You better believe this ain't by design. At this point, I feel like I've resigned. I ain't got the heart of a soldier. I ain't got no strength in my shoulders. I need to obey my controller. Oh, I'm begging you for mercy. Work hard for money that don't feel mine. Maybe it's time to grow a spine. I ain't got the heart of a soldier. I ain't got no strength in my shoulders. I need to obey my controller. Oh, I'm begging you for mercy. Oh, I'm hoping for the universe to give me little instead of kiss me. But I don't know that I'll ever be with you. Oh, I'm begging you for mercy. Oh, I'm hoping for the universe to give me little instead of kiss me. But I don't know that I'll ever be with you. I'm begging you, I'm begging you. Oh, won't you show me mercy? Oh, you show me, show me, show me. Oh, I'm begging you. I'm begging from your heart. I'm begging you for mercy, like I have from the start. Oh, I'm begging you for mercy. Oh, I'm hoping for the universe to give me a little instead of kiss me. But I don't know that I'll ever be with you. Oh, I'm begging you for mercy. Oh, I'm hoping for the universe to give me a little instead of kiss me. But I don't know that I'll ever be with you.
Welcome back. Now, it is that time of the show where I'm going to give you a little bit of information because today's show is sponsored by DistroKid. Who are DistroKid? I can tell you all about that right now. DistroKid release your music to amazing places like Apple Music, and like Spotify and like Facebook and Snapchat and Amazon and all these amazing places for a very, very low cost of $19.99 a year. And if you use my promo code, distrokid.com/VIP/Jade, you get 7% off your first year. And it's totally worth it to get all your music everywhere. You'll even get your music on streaming services that you've never heard of. Never heard of. And that's awesome. And you can pick and choose where those places go really easily. Just by when you upload, look how much music I have up here. I've uploaded so much music, it is ridiculous. And you see these little spots here, these are the places where they go to. Look at all these interesting places they go to. And you can pick and choose and send where you want these to go to. But anyway, I want to show you something interesting today that you may not know about DistroKid. If you go to this link here, goodies, and then down to where are we? Is it enhance your music? I do believe it is. No, it's not enhance your music. I don't even know where I'm going. It's where am I? What day is it? Who are you? What's going on? Special access, is it in there? No, it's not. I've lost where it's at. It is here. Let me find it. There it is. Where'd you go? It was here. It was here yesterday, and I've lost it. Promo cards. So you've got all these great things you can do: hyper follows, mini videos, meme generators. You can create all this stuff. There's lots of really cool stuff you can create in here. We've got enhance your music as well. And here it is. See this thing here? It's called Spotify Canvas Generator. What is this? This is wicked. So let's click on it. When you click on this, it takes you to this wonderful page where you can create a little video and to add to your Spotify page, right? And it's as simple as this. I'm going to try and add something to my utensil song, the song that's about the end of the world. So let's do global warming, because that's what the song's about, global warming. And we'll do a search, and it comes up with a whole bunch of these little videos for you. And you can there's look how many it gives you, 2,643 videos. So you've got plenty to go through, but I'm just going to pick one right here. I like this one. Let's check it out. What it does is it takes a piece of this footage and you can put it in this little view here. You can move this around where you want it. You can move the timeline, and you can have between, I think it's 3 seconds and 8 seconds of material of this repeating and animating. Yeah, so let's check out this. Let's see what it does. I think this looks good. Yeah, it's going to be good. I think we move it over just a little bit there, and then once you've got it in the right place, you just hit next, and it creates this little video for you. Does all the work for you. Yeah, of course, that's what DistroKid makes life easy. So my video is ready to download. There it is, and I can hit download, and it will download it straight to my downloads folder. Cool, we don't need this anymore. I can jump out of this, go over to my downloads folder, and here is the video here. So I'm going to select this, and what I'm going to do is share this over to my photos. So I'll save that video over to my photos. And now if you've got the Spotify app, check this out. Open Spotify, find your song. So here it is, Impending Doom. This is the track. And I want to do something to this. I want to and look what it's got, create canvas. So find the song you want to do, click on this button, and it takes you, so you can do all this within the Spotify app. And all you got to do is hit the plus, choose your artwork, add that, and now it adds this small video to your music. So whenever anybody finds this on Spotify, hit next, let's go. Ready to post? Yep. Terms and conditions. I don't read them. I don't care. I live on the wild side. I'm a metalhead. Boom. And now that's processing. So now whenever anybody finds this track on Spotify, there'll be that little moving picture that'll just loop for them. Really, really interesting stuff. So in saying that, right, not only can you use the DistroKid to do it, you can even make your own outside of that. So you can use a still picture if you want. You can use a video. So that's processing. It does its thing, and then you are good to go. Another really cool feature. There we go. Done. It is added, and there it is. So now when you click, it takes you to the video while the song's playing. How great is that? Just interesting little things you can add. Simple stuff. So that is DistroKid, my friends. So let's go back over here. We want to go to upgrade. There we go. So there's the prices. Once again, make your own little videos. Thank you, Distro Kid, for sponsoring the show. As always, let's get back over to James. Hello. There you are.
Hey,
Thank you very much for hanging out
Here I
through
am.
my sponsor read. I love doing sponsor reads. I feel like I'm back on AM radio.
was that something you've done?
You know what? I growing up, this is weird. I listen to a lot of music, but when I go to sleep, I can't listen to music. I have to listen to talking. So
Yeah, same here.
So
Serial killer documentaries normally.
Yep, I do that now. But I used to listen to AM radio, and I used to listen to old people complaining all through the night.
Yeah. Can I make a recommendation of something to listen to when you go to bed?
Sure.
On Spotify, Stephen Fry's 7 Deadly Sins.
Nice.
Like, do you know who Stephen Fry is?
Of course I do. Yes.
Yeah. So, but basically, it's just his almost like he's taken the time to write his thoughts about each of the 7 deadly sins and what he thinks of them, but he's written it in such a way that it's like poetry. It's just awesome. So that's what I've been falling asleep to this week. But I highly recommend.
I've added it to my notes, and I'll definitely do that once I finish the show. Because YouTube's been a bit boring lately. It's not been a lot of the serial killer stuff I watch has been a little bit boring. It's like they've run out of stuff. Like
I've completed
Monsters.
it.
Do you watch Monsters?
Yeah.
Monsters has got a bit boring.
No, I've pretty much watched. I think I genuinely believe that I've completed serial killer documentaries. Like there's not a single one that I haven't watched. I've seen it from every angle, completed it. So if the missus goes missing,
Dude,
then,
you've just incriminated
they
yourself.
won't catch me.
Except for when they find this video.
Well, yeah, no, that's a valid point. So what's your address?
I'll give it to you after the show.
Yeah, just unrelated.
I'm not going to dox myself. I've done that too many times before. So you've had no vocal training. Am I correct to get to this the voice that you have?
No, so the only vocal training I've had was actually relatively recently. I was basically selected to go on to a TV show over here. Did you ever have Stars in Your Eyes back in the day?
Yeah, I've seen
where they
it.
go. So they've made a new version called Starstruck over in the UK, which is basically like The Voice meets Stars in Their Eyes. So they get people to compete that sound like people. So they approached me and asked me if I wanted to go on it doing Rag and Bone Man. So effectively I didn't really know how the show was sort of laid out. So we went through all the processes. I was down back and forth in London. Did a lot of work with vocal coaches there, but that was specifically work to try and sound like Rag and Bone Man, which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
But in the end, they ended up asking me to be a stand-in in case one of the other guys got sick.
Right.
So I never ended up on the TV anyway.
Right.
But yeah, but literally you're talking like 2 or 3 hours of vocal coaching is the most I've ever had.
All right, this is an interesting question. So, do you think, for you as a performer, singer, songwriter, it was better that you didn't go on, or would it have been better if you went on?
I'm kind of glad that it didn't happen. Like the whole time. So my main reason for doing it was mainly because my dad, because that would have made his life. The fact that I would have got on TV singing, that would have been like, he would have been chuffed to bits. But as I was going through the process, I was talking to my dad and the rest of the family about it. And the reality was that I was saying to them, guys, I'm not keen on this. It's really weird. Like one person sings a line and another person sings a line. And at no point are you actually showcasing what you're like as a vocalist. And at no point is it going to be me. I'm going to be dressed up as someone else, trying to sound like someone else. So I wasn't particularly into it anyway. But in the same vein, I also thought it's a platform to get in front of a guaranteed millions of people, literally, possibly tens of millions of people. And so that is potentially a way to move something forward. But in the same vein, I don't know anyone who's actually made it from anything like that. So I don't think they're really worth doing if your intention is to make it. If it's for a bit of fun, which is sort of how I was looking at it, it was more than fine. But the other people, or some of the other people that were involved in that process, they thought like this was a big break. And that was kind of sad because, guys, you're going to be on one TV program for 3 minutes. You're not This
Yeah.
isn't going to be you making it.
Yeah, just Midnight Bandit's written here. James Timms, I wanted you to know the effort that you put into your music is really impressive, more so than I can put into words. Hope you're having fun.
Cheers, thank you very much.
So it's interesting with these kind of shows because I've told the story on my channel before. I got onto Big Brother many years ago and got to the final. I got to the final people and was like hotels ready to go and pulled out the last minute. And I'm so glad that I did. I reckon it would have destroyed my life. Because I look back and see so many others. And I have a friend too on Facebook who went on one of those talent things in the UK. UK's Got Talent. His name's Dan. And he was one of the poor, unfortunate people that the show took the piss out of and made a fool out of.
Right, okay.
And now he's kind of still living off that on Facebook and you know, and people go back and watch that and then they kind of take the piss these days. It's interesting because it's like the idol shows and stuff, you know. I always find this interesting. They get you on the show and they tell you all the way through, we're not seeing the real you, but here's another cover of somebody else's song. And then eventually the people who win, they go, we're finally seeing the real you. And now that you've won, here's an album that somebody else wrote for you, which makes no fucking sense whatsoever.
No, and I don't want to take anything away from the people like who've done it. I mean, I've considered it. I get approached most years. Every time there's a new thing, someone will find a video of me somewhere and decide that I should be on a show and whatever else. But I think to a certain extent, people should view the people that go through these competitions as what they are. For the most part, they're not songwriters. They're not musicians. They're really good karaoke singers, and that's not taking anything away from them. They are awesome singers, and that is, but there's something very different from being a great singer and a great songwriter.
Yeah,
like a great song, a singer has a lifespan. A great song will transition time. Think about Unchained Melody. How many different artists have done that? That's the difference between a song and a singer, I suppose.
Yeah, totally. And I guess that goes back to you know, performing covers and having to, you know, be this other artist, singing these other artist songs and feeling trapped that, hang on, I've got all this stuff to say and I'm so much bigger than this other person's song. I'm kind of glad you didn't, but I get your point too about your dad, because like, you know, I remember ringing my dad. I had a gig where I was playing in front of 17,000 people and ringing him going, dude, I'm playing a gig. Oh, sorry, 70,000 people. I'm playing a gig in front of, and he was just like, no, you still won't make anything out of it. It's like, oh, dude, there's no point. There's no way. Like, it doesn't matter. I could say I'm playing in front of 1 million people and I'm wearing gold clothing. You still won't get it, dude. Like,
no, I've got the opposite, man. My dad is the most supportive person that you could imagine, especially against the band stuff. So like he turned up to everything. He'd bring a crowd. So yeah, it's again with the whole soul band, the whole cover thing. He's a big part of why I did it as long as I did. I probably did it 2 years longer than I wanted to, because my dad and his wife regularly came to the gigs. They regularly brought a big group of friends with them. And it sounds, I suppose, a bit soppy, but a lot of the shows my dad would come to would be like big sellout shows. So when you've got sellout, everyone's having an awesome time.
Yeah.
And then right at the front is your dad and his 10 mates. There's just a certain level of, you enjoy it a bit more. Like to the point, his 50th birthday, we played that. They rented out this giant pavilion. There must have been like 200 people there. It's crazy. But effectively, he turned his birthday into our gig. That's how it was treated.
Nice.
That's how, and because he really, really, really loved that band and sort of everything that we did. So yeah, it's been nice to have a cheerleader. Really nice. Because as you'll know, as I put out a lot of music, a lot of music, and very rarely does anything go past 100 streams, 100 plays on anything. So it's nice when you know, even if it is your dad, that there's someone actually out there sort of that does enjoy it.
It's a hard slog, you know, to release, to get people to listen to your music, to get people to engage. I mean, there's so much noise going on in the world Not only, we touched before on politics and take that out of it. And then there's so much noise on just like being able to survive, live, eat, keep a roof over your head. Then you've got social media, which is, I don't know, is it a good thing or a bad thing? Because
100% a bad thing. Like I spend a huge amount of time on it, but at no point am I an advocate. Like it's fucked the world, isn't it? I mean, it's polarized everything.
Yeah,
there's no middle ground anymore. So no, I don't think it's for the best. We should really be living in fields and eating cabbages. That's what's best.
Or getting cholera.
Yeah, right. No, so but back probably about 10 years ago now, I went and lived in Nepal for the best part of a year.
Right.
And so I was right out in the sticks in the Himalayas. These guys, like when I arrived, they'd never seen a white person, right? So I'm not your average looking white person either. So these guys, average height of a man over there is like 5'3".
Yeah.
At the time, I was like 24, 25 stone, like 140 kg, 6'6". We were supposed to be staying with families over there, and the woman who I was supposed to be living with, I arrived, and the exact words were in Nepali, "I'm not feeding that." So it's but the people over there, like they ate what they grew in the garden, and they lived that sort of smaller life. But for the most part, they were far happier than most people over here, with far bigger lives, but far bigger worries.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I say bigger worries, they're not bigger worries, but you make them bigger worries.
Yeah, there's a lot of worries going on in the world. It's we're bombarded with worries. We're rarely bombarded with good stuff. Like, imagine if we lived in a world where the news was each night, hey, this whole bunch of good things happened here. This was really good. And here's a really interesting artist that you may not have heard with to close the show. What a world that would be.
I think there's a couple of things that ruined that had a really big impact on how the world is and what it's become. I think it's so negative because that's what people want to see, and that's what propagates the media. And so, in that effect, I think the advent of newspapers coming out daily was an awful tragedy because they've got to come up with stories daily. So they spend their entire lives trying to dig out hideous shit that they can put in front of people that will make you go, right? And exactly the same with news. As soon as there was 5 episodes of the news per day or 24-hour news cycles, all of a sudden they've got to spend their time digging out all of the god-awful shit in the world. And as we've seen with various things in politics and everything else, if you see that stuff happening, especially if you see it in media, it becomes almost justified, because I saw someone on the TV do that. I saw a leader do that. I saw a president do that. And then all of a sudden, well, if he's doing it, then I'm not a monster if I do it.
Yeah.
And it's basically we're sold to so much that we're just giving shit because we want shit.
Yeah, and when you feed people shit, you get shit, don't you?
Well, they go looking for more shit. That's the problem.
Yeah, yeah. You become trained to enjoy shit.
Well, I'm a prime consumer of it. Like, I read the BBC News website front to back every day. So I in terms of what's going on in global politics and all that, I know all of it, and it's depressing as fuck. And why do I want to know all of it? Why do I need to know what's going on in Iran? It's irrelevant. But for some reason, I know that really depressing shit's happening there. Great. All the killing is in Myanmar. Why have I why am I making myself so conscious of it? But in the same vein, I feel like I need to be conscious of it, because otherwise I'm deliberately not making myself aware of it.
Yep.
There's like a line between knowing too much and being deliberately ignorant.
I've just put a poll into the chat. We're saying that. Do you enjoy consuming shit? Yes or no? Let's see what people say.
I mean, yeah. All right. Slightly off topic, but like weird couples that are into like poo and stuff. How does one proposition that to the other one? And I'm not asking because it's something I want to do, but I don't get how you initiate that conversation.
Oh,
like, how do you say, wouldn't it be really fun if I did a shit on you? Oh, no, just joking. Like, I don't get how that goes down.
Mate, We could. You don't know my history. Before I did this, I used to work as a dominatrix because I'm trans, you know.
Right, so you have shit on people.
I have for money, for thousands of dollars.
I mean,
and you know
if
what?
you're going to do it for cash.
Each time I've done it, it's just the thought in my head is like, what are you getting out of this, dude? I'll never forget the guy,
Right.
one guy, just before it was about to happen, went, wait, am I going to get sick from this? And I just turned around and went, it's shit.
Yeah, probably.
I'm sorry, man. Like, I don't. What do you want your money back? I'm not giving you the $1,500 back, dude. Sorry. We're ready to go. Open wide.
But to a certain extent, with the, like paying someone to do it, that's easier to get your head around because you search someone out that will poop on you, right?
Yeah.
The bit in my head is I can't get, like, you sat on the sofa, it's a nice winter night, fire's on, cat's on your lap, and then like, gosh, should we piss on each other tonight? Yeah, like how do you? I just don't know. I feel like there's a whole life that I don't know about, a whole world that I'm missing out.
Midnight Bandit says, welcome to How to Crap on iOS. Look, there's got to, you know what, James? There's got to be dating sites out there for those particular people. There would have to be.
Like an app called, there's going to be an app called like Pooper.
Yeah, it's loversofpoop.org or something. And, you know, man, there used to be a website called Ampulove. I remember that back in the early days of the internet, Ampulove, where it was a place where it was a message board where you could meet female amputees and hook up meetups with them in hotel rooms and rub their stumps. I shit you not. Because I joined it just to find out.
Why? Again, what don't I know? What is there's got to be something there. I mean, so do I need to try it? Do I need to go and?
I don't know. Well, are we missing out on something? Mr. Smith has commented, "We're doomed." There's no coming back. Can we blame social media for that? I don't think so, because this stuff has been around as long as time.
No, yeah, I bet Henry VIII was pooping on people.
Absolutely. It's,
so no, I think pooping's old. That they predate Facebook.
I think it's the way people are brought up. It's things that I think it's trauma. I think with a lot of things is trauma, you know, things that you are out of your control when you're young and your brain hasn't, you know, formed.
Yeah. On that, moving it back towards like music stuff.
Oh, no, this is the weirdest interview.
I think that trauma certainly has a distinct impact on potentially how creative someone is. Because what I found is I had, I won't go into too much depth, but I had sort of difficult, sort of challenging times when I was a kid. And I found that the easiest way for me to lose myself was to do music. And I suppose that was an escape from quite an early age.
Yep.
When I say doing music, I literally had like a really cheap little crappy keyboard and I'd sit there just plonking on it, writing songs. And there's songs that I wrote when I was like 9 or 10 that I still know now that are just like these little funky little riffs, but that was an escape, and I think that's something that it's probably something I still do now. It's probably the reason that I'm able to sink into something for 10 hours is because it's the one place where if I'm doing that, the outside world doesn't really exist. So I certainly think there's definitely a link between trauma and creativity, and that's not to say that people that haven't experienced trauma aren't creative, but I would hazard a guess that most artists have probably been through something.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer of that. I think, and I think trauma is, I don't know. It feels like we've gone to a strange place with trauma because, hey, trauma it's a thing and it's traumatic, but at the same time, people and Audible's written here, people who suffered have more empathy and more to say. So in a way, I kind of agree with that. It's like people who have near-death experiences or people who suffered trauma have a better understanding of life. These are real life experiences where you're able to connect empathically. empathetically, is that the word?
Yeah.
But and be able to like share these stories, and music is a great way to do that. So, and look, you put out a lot of material. So do you, when you're writing songs, you know, you've moved to this now, during COVID, for example, do you think you put out a lot of material? Is that where you really started to bang out a lot of material during COVID?
I think so at the start of COVID, I through Facebook, I became introduced to this guy called Boy Pandit.
Yep.
Who's since become quite a big producer. Like I believe he's had a couple of #1s in Greece. So he came across my vocals and basically was like, dude, I really want to work with you. So we ended up doing 2 or 3 tracks together. And that took my profile from having like my Spotify profile from having 50 listeners ever to some of the tracks had like 10,000 listens on the first day. So all of a sudden, if I was going to release my own music, the quality of it had to be far superior to anything that I'd done before. I also found that during that time, because I started working with a couple of different producers, I developed a bit of a network of people that I could start to run music by and ask serious questions and get real critical answers from. So it sort of instigated being able to write, not necessarily write better stuff, but be able to produce it better and make better songs from that writing. So yeah, COVID and the fact that I could spend, all I could do during COVID was make music. Like I didn't have a job, everything completely shut. I was off work from March till September. So during that time, I probably progressed as much as I would have in 5 or 10 years, just because I was able to put more time in. I probably put 20, 30 hours a week in on it, just song after song after song after song. And then like even now I listen to the songs that I put out at that time and I'm also embarrassed by them because the quality versus what I've put out recently is wild, the difference between them. But I wouldn't have got to that point had I not put out all of that stuff before to get, if that makes any sort of sense.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, all of us go through that. Yeah, go back and listen to older stuff and cringe. But I know some people even who go back and listen to their old stuff and hate it so much they delete it, and it's like, what?
I have done recently.
Oh, really, really? Wow.
Yeah.
Can I ask why?
Because there was so much of it, and there was so much of it, and it was such a like it hadn't even been mastered. Right. I knew nothing. Right. So you're talking like it sounded like the vocals sounded okay. But the music sounded like something you programmed into your Nokia 3310. So it was a long way from. I've tried to not keep anything on there that isn't like commercially viable, if that makes sense. That doesn't sound like a song that you would be listening to anyway. There are a couple on there that are a bit rough, but I just like them. But for the most part, if someone goes onto my Spotify, I want them to feel like I am a real artist in inverted commas, so that they don't feel like I'm a guy making it in my bedroom.
That's interesting, you know, because you are a real artist, and is a real artist somebody who makes music in their bedroom, or somebody who pays thousands of dollars to sit around in some fancy place and have it's an interesting thing these days.
What is interesting as well is, especially these days, I think my recordings are better than some of the smaller studios. So there are people paying for things that I'm able to knock out on Garageband on a 10-year-old Mac. So that's the other part of it is there's something stopping me getting a new Mac or upgrading to Logic because I like the limitations of it, and that sounds crazy, but I like the fact that I make what I make using all of the budget stuff. Like I've got an SM58, I've got a fake Les Paul that I bought off Amazon for 100 quid. Everything I've got is basically less than £100. I've never spent more than that on any of the equipment I've got. And I like the fact that my music sounds good because it is good, not because, and in saying that, I know a lot of people think that equipment, they overvalue what equipment can do.
Yeah.
A great deal.
All the gear, no idea.
Yeah. Like I quite often see in the groups that we're in on Facebook, people talking about mics, and everyone's like, "Oh, get a Rhodes, get this, that, and the other." And like, guys, if you're not in a treated room, get an SM58. Anything else is going to be complete overkill. You're going to really struggle with it. It's going to sound harsh. You're going to have background noise. It's a waste of time and money unless you're going to spend £1,000 soundproofing the room at the same time.
Yeah.
Get an SM58. It'll sound great. It's bulletproof. It'll last you forever. But people have just got this stigma that, like, I know I've got to spend money because that'll make me sound better. I've got a Rode NT1 in the drawer. It's been there for 3 years.
Yeah, it's solid advice. Absolutely solid advice. An SM58 will get you through forever, and you can drive a car over it and it'll still work.
Yep.
You know, they're fantastic. You know, too, sometimes it's better to, instead of go out and find a brand of microphone, understand your voice first. Listen to the tonality of your voice when you just sing in a room. Understand what it does, and then find the mic that's going to accentuate that. And that's the way to find a microphone. It's not about the quality of the mic. It's because you can buy like the most expensive microphone, but at the same time, if your voice sounds shit through it, you've got a really shrill voice and you've picked a very high end, high gain mic, your voice is going to sound garbage. No matter what the price tag.
Well, I will pretty much destroy any condenser mic. My voice is just too big.
Yep.
And because in my tracks as well, I use a lot of dynamics where I go from sort of relatively quiet. I do big octave jumps where I'll go from sort of a sort of relatively soft chest voice to a full-on belt where it's almost screaming. If I'm doing that with a condenser, especially an expensive, really sensitive condenser, I'm going to have to do it like 30 takes because I can't move that much from the mic to get it to be a reasonable sort of sound. Whereas the 58, I basically do most of my tracks in 2 or 3 takes, just go straight through, and that's it. Yep.
I've just closed the poll, James.
Okay, so do people like to eat?
The scary thing is 38% of people do like to consume shit. So
I mean, that's a solid minority, isn't it?
It's a number. It's considerable.
Yeah.
You know, it's you know, but the nays have it. The nays have it. So you know, we'll give it to them. So just looking at your singles here, I'll just bring this up. Man, you have a lot of singles, and that's excellent. There's so much stuff here. Look at all this stuff, guys. Now I've put links pinned to the top of the channel, so there's a link tree, and in the description there's links to everything that is James Timms. Did you just drop a single today? Called Nothing But C. Nothing But C.
Yes, I did. Yeah, I did.
It's out right now.
I've got something coming out like every 2 weeks for like the next month or so.
Look at that. This is just dropped. So I get to play this as an exclusive. Can we do this now?
Yeah. You go ahead, man.
All right, let's do it. Guys, this is just dropped. It's exciting. I'm going to can I click on the whole thing? Can I get the whole thing over here? Let's see if I hit play. All right, this is Nothing But C. This is just dropped on all the streaming services. So we'll see you back here shortly. And boom, let's do it.
Let's not say this crap down. We knew damn well that it wouldn't be long. We'll all be swimming soon, baby, met in soon when it's down to you. Oh God, it's blood, but there's nothing but sight. What's God is but a price. Left we go to believe. Why good is Monday when there's nothing but sea? Why progress, we fail to believe. Why good is Monday when there's nothing but sea? Why good is progress if we fail to believe? Let's not say this crap down. We knew damn well that it wouldn't be long. We'll all be swimming soon, baby, met in suit when it's down to you. Oh God, it's blood, but there's nothing but sight. to see what's good for us. Will we learn? No, not likely. Will we learn? No, not likely. So we go falling forward, blind to see what's good for us. Will we learn? No, not likely. Will we learn? No, not likely. So we go falling forward, blind to see what's good for us. Will we learn? No, not likely. Will we learn? No, not likely. So we go falling forward, blind to see what's good for us. Will we learn? No, not likely. Will we learn? No, not likely. What good is Monday when there's nothing but sea? What good is progress? We fail to believe. What good is Monday when there's nothing but sea? What good is progress if we fail to believe? What good is Monday when there's nothing but sea? What good is progress if we fail to believe?
Damn straight, man.
See, that already. So I must have only made that like I don't know 8 weeks ago, and I'm cringing listening to that.
Really? No,
Yeah.
man. No, that is fat as all fuck.
But like I didn't like the mix on that at all.
Really? Wow. Everybody in the chat seems to think it's awesome. I thought it's awesome. I wanted to.
But yeah, it just shows how you go. Yeah, it's just you become a perfectionist, don't you?
Yeah, hey, look, you can say it till the cows come home. Perfection doesn't exist, but we've all got it.
Yeah.
I'm exactly the same. I'm still sitting on stuff I should have released ages ago, but I don't because I'm a butthurt bitch over my own stuff. And you know, you can preach it as much, but practicing it is incredibly hard. Oh, now a lot of people struggle with vocals, for someone like you and myself, who we've been doing this a long time, got incredibly strong. I like to think I've got an incredibly strong voice. Do you have any tips to help people to find that inner, to get that out, to sing like no one's listening, or things you do to prepare, keep your voice healthy? Do you have anything like that you can offer people to help get out of their shell?
Sure. I mean, in terms of like looking after your voice, there's nothing I can offer there because the way I sing, I'm fairly confident is not good. Like I used to do 2 shows. If I did 2 shows on a Friday and Saturday, I couldn't speak again until like Tuesday. I'd completely lose my voice. It was 100% gone. So I'm fairly confident that what I'm doing wrong. But in terms of getting people out of the shell, the only thing that I can say is you've got to commit to it. And when I say commit, you've got to lose yourself. So when you're recording, you can't be like sitting there thinking, "Oh, can anyone hear this? You've got to not be listening to yourself." Like when I record, I want to just be able to hear myself against the music. I don't want to be able to hear my words or my diction or anything like that. Literally just making sure that the note's right, because I'm going to be whacking that. And if I hear myself, it's going to put me off. So I know that works best for me. And it's the same in terms of, like I say, worrying if anyone else is going to hear it or worrying what you sound like. You've just got to commit to it, because you can tell in someone's voice if they've committed to that note or not. You can tell if someone's sung it or if they've really felt it. And I think a lot of people, I say a lot of people, the people that like my music tend to like it because the vocal tends to speak to them. So yeah, all I can say is commit to it, pretend that there's no one there, do it a few times so that you're happy, make sure your fucking eyes are closed, your arms are flying everywhere, because if not, you're not doing it properly.
Feel it, man. So, yeah, get it out. Like it's the best place to get it out. And you mentioned about doing live shows and then not being able to speak. It happens to me a lot too. And I think all the training I've had goes out the window when you're in the moment, because when you're on stage, you're giving everything and you're throwing everything at the wall and you're hoping it's all going to stick. And so it's okay. It's okay to come out of it with a fucked up voice. You might not be able to sing for a couple of days, but hell, if you get a performance out of it, especially for people recording, if you lose your voice for a day or two, but you nail a performance, it's all right. Your voice will come back.
I've kind of got, I think my default when I sing is I've only got that one sort of gear. I'm a terrible singer if I'm doing anything besides going for it. So it's probably the reason I do it is out of necessity more than anything else. I'd love to have sort of a really silky smooth nice tone. I don't have that. What I have is a voice that I can growl, which comes in handy when you're doing a lot of the James Brown stuff and that.
So big to differ. I think you've got a really smooth singing voice and a really amazing growl as well too. And you know, it's interesting too, being a growler myself, lots of people find it intriguing. They're like, how can you growl like that and then you know, then sing at the same time? There's definitely technique to growling. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. So I cheat 100%. I'm not gonna and if you listen to recordings of people like Trivium, they also cheat. So, I mean, live, back in when I was doing my emo stuff back in the day, live, when I was doing the screaming, I was doing a proper scream. So it was effectively trying to sing a note that was far too high, my voice would completely break, and it was just an absolute sort of rip of your vocal cords, I suppose. What I'm doing these days is effectively getting the mic, the input way up, get really close, just doing literally, it's almost like, getting it nice and kept, doing a couple of takes, get it nice and thick, spread left and right, and then basically get a pitch correction, drop one down like 3 semitones, one down 5 semitones, and compress it all together, and you'll have a nice Satan-y sounding thing. But again, I'm not a band, and I'm not trying to be a band, so I'm doing a load of stuff in the production side of things where, much like I suppose a band like Amuse, they're using techniques to make the sound. They're not necessarily being true to how you make it. It's, you know, they rely on tech to do a lot of stuff, and I'm not against that. I'm doing what I think sounds best for the song. So yeah, there's definitely ways to do the screaming stuff if you can't do the screaming stuff.
Absolutely. And it's not cheating. It's not cheating, man. This is why we have these tools. Like, we have these tools to be able to make things sound interesting and different. And, you know, if you can't do something that you want to do, we have the technology to do it. So I don't think it's cheating. You know, I know back in the 80s, there's a lot of conjecture over like pop music and people fake singing and all this kind of stuff. But really, like, you know, and sure, we have now Motley Crue where Vince Neil is terrible. These days, but I
saw a video recently. It was
oh man, it's so sad.
The other thing on that though, what really bugs me at the moment is people's, and I see it again a lot in the groups, people's attitude towards stuff like autotune, pitch correction.
Yep.
And they talk about it as if it's like, oh yeah, anyone can sing using pitch correction. No, they can't. Like, maybe if you've got the really expensive whatever you call it, like the one I use is Grallian, right? So literally, if you don't hit that note, it'll force you up to that note, but it'll drag you there and make you sound like a robot on the way.
Yep.
So I think people put too much emphasis on what tech can do. Like, it won't make you sound good. It'll make you sound in tune, but that doesn't mean good. That's not the good part of your voice. It's the tone, it's the delivery, it's the stuff that goes around it. And what they also don't understand is that every single song that you will hear anywhere, ever, has pitch correction on it. Because if you're using a load of digital instruments, just the slightest fraction out on that vocal will make everything sound horrific.
Yep.
Because everything else is digital and absolutely perfect in tune. So if your vocal isn't, you'll know. Like there's songs I've got in mind, like the Katy Perry Firework, right? If you have a proper listen to that, the big note that she does is way flat. Don't know why, but it just sticks out like a sore thumb. And I don't think people realize how much of an impact that has on us. Obviously, Katy Perry, bad example because she's huge. But if you're an emerging artist and you've got anything that sounds remotely out of tune or wrong or anything in a song, people are just going to think you're an amateur and throw it to the side, unfortunately. But that's the world we live in. If it's not polished and doesn't sound like stuff on the radio, people won't listen.
Yeah, one of the things I used to try and teach people, the first lesson that I would spend, the first few lessons teaching people, is to go home and find your key, find your where you fit within at what key, yeah. So so you know your limitations, because if you have no knowledge in that, if you don't understand what your end point is on low range and high range, then you are constantly going to be trying to reach something that is unattainable for your voice at this current state. So once you understand,
Do you know what your high note is?
man, I have 5 octaves.
Yeah. So in full voice, I know my those big screams that I do.
Yep.
I know that's an A.
Yep.
So I tend to write in G or G minor so that the song can always lead up to that as like a crescendo.
And I tend to write in E and C. E for metal, C for pop music. It's
oh, okay. I do everything with metal stuff's in C for me.
Wow. Or well, if I'm doing death metal, it's in D always, or B, like because everything's tuned down.
I haven't got enough strings for that.
But it is interesting. A lot of people don't understand their voice, and you would know as a singer, a lot of times I would record music and hit these incredible high notes that took in the studio back in the days when you went to studios, and you'd spend a whole day trying to hit these notes, and you'd get there, or you'd cheat and slow down the tape and sing it raw, and then speed up the tape a bit. But then you get live and you have to perform this stuff. But what was really good about it is if you had a cold or something, it's okay to sing it an entire bit down. It's okay to do that, because no one's going to sit there and go, "Oh, you sung that totally different." But when you know where you can sing, then you're going to have a lot better experience singing. Understand? Yeah. So, and you
really helps with the writing process as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. So now you record using Mac, yeah? So you're a Mac user?
Yeah, it's like a 2014 iMac.
It doesn't matter the age, does it? It works, man.
Yeah, not for long. Like it struggles, really struggles. But yeah, I do it all from the old iMac.
And do you use iOS at all for anything?
I used to. Again, during COVID, what I used to, when I had a bit more time, I used to find that I'd start putting stuff together on the Garageband app, just sort of coming up with melodies, ideas, chord structures, that sort of stuff. And then once I had the foundations of a song, I'd come up here and make a start on there.
Yep. So, and you mentioned gear. So I think I'm noticing behind you the speakers, are they PreSonus 3.5s?
Yeah, the little 3.5s.
Yep, those things go off. There's so many people who are using those things. They're very
yeah,
popular.
they're really good.
Yeah,
I was really surprised with them. There's not much low end, but that kind of works quite well. If I'm honest, it's quite a small room, so I don't need anything that's got too much rumble.
And for your songwriting process, how do you start writing a song? Is it a similar template? Do you have a template that you go by, or is it depending on what you're going to write about? Music stuff first?
No, not really. Yeah, so always music first.
Yep.
Generally speaking, there's a bit of a structure, so it'll be a bit of an intro, verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, outro, so a variation of that. So I might move stuff around. Like if there's a good riff, I might have that repeat a couple of times through the song or whatever. But generally speaking, it's a relatively standard pop structure, because I just find that firstly, if I find ideally you don't want a song to be much over sort of 3 or 4 minutes. So anything outside of that structure, it's difficult to keep within that sort of time frame. And secondly, people that listen to pop music are very familiar with a song having that structure. And if you think of pop, or if you think of rock songs that have done well, even by bands that are way out there, so you think of songs like Toxicity, System of a Down, all of their big songs, you looked at the structure of it, they are still structured as a pop song. Verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, hook. And there's a reason for that, and it's a formula that people recognize. So I tend to stick with that, but it'll be the music first. Then in terms of writing the vocal, I basically scat over that. So just sit here until something fits. And then embarrassingly, I reckon I write most of the I reckon I do most of the vocal lines and the lyrics in less than an hour. I just sort of knock them out. I'll spend a lot of time then building around that and doing all the backing vocals and harmonies and all sorts of stuff. But the actual lyrics and the vocal line itself will come pretty quickly. I tend to be quite quick to just go, yep, that'll do.
It's quite fitting that you scat your vocals in today's show, which the topic has been around scat, unfortunately. For a lot of the time.
It has.
So, which I love where these interviews go. Man.
Yeah.
This is
No, it's the most I've talked about shit for ages, though, to be fair.
it's brilliant.
Don't get stuck about it enough.
So drums, I'm always interested in the recording process with drums because I tend to start my songs with drums when I'm actually putting down the music. Like I'll have an idea of what the bass is going to be or write the guitar. But when I lay stuff, I normally want to have drums down first because they're really important. I never used to believe that until I started playing drums 3 years ago. Now I play more drums than sing these days. So how do you do your drums? Do you use an auto drummer? Do you program drums in Garageband?
No, so I program them in GarageBand, but I don't use the stock software. So I can't remember what it's called, but it was just a free AU plugin.
Yep.
That I put on there. Works great. It takes a bit of tweaking and took a bit of time to make that sound a bit more like a real drum kit. But I tend to put all of the guitars down to a click before I even start anything else. I'm big into bands like, have you listened to Memphis Mayfire?
Yeah, definitely. Wicked.
Yeah, so Memphis Mayfire, if you listen to the drum tracks, they almost mimic the guitar tracks. It's basically beat for beat.
Yep.
I really like that sort of, I feel that really drives songs forward. So I tend to write the guitars first and then I'll write the drums to match that. And as well as that, I feel like if you were writing in a band setting, or when we used to write in a band setting, it's sort of how you used to write, is the guitarist would come up with a riff, they'd figure it out, and then the drummer would come in to match that. So it feels more natural in terms of the writing process. But before I did this, I used to use the native, the drummer on GarageBand that just plays on its own, which I think is a really cool little tool.
Absolutely.
I used to use that loads. Like, how handy is that? It saves hours of programming. It sounds way more natural than anything you come up with. It's the only reason I don't use it now is because I can't get it to, match all the double kick drums and all that sort of stuff. But for just, if you go in sort of relatively standard, think just like rock, pop, whatever else, you'll get an awesome beat from that, whatever the genre, really.
I think what's great about the auto drummer too, and I've tried to cover it as much as I can. I've done many shows on trying to help people break away from the auto drummer because I know a lot of people use it. And I know if you're like me, sometimes I hear music and I can tell straight away which auto drum is in the song. Yeah. And so I try and help people get away. But what's great, I think, about the auto drummers is because they create the little patterns with the triangles in there. If you look at it and understand it, you can know, you'll learn what each triangle is in the auto drummer. So you can take those auto drummers and then start building a track with a drummer and start understanding how to program drums. So there's a real opportunity, I think, with the auto drummer. I was telling you before the show, I just got Glenn Fricker's new drum at the Extreme Level event yesterday. It's drum candy. I know Mr. Smith is here in the crowd and he's an amazing drummer. But
I look forward to hearing it.
It's sick. I can't wait to use it. All right, we're getting to the end. Oh no, we've actually still got 10 minutes. So what am I speeding up about? So what else do I want to cover? Now you've given me a bunch of songs to play, but there was something. There's something I wanted to end on today, which isn't in your list. Which was Aging for the Old. Or would you like to choose something else that you think out of the songs? Because it's your interview, my friend. Is it?
No, I mean, if you want to end on that, I've got no skin in the game, really.
I think it's brutal.
You crack on.
I had it on repeat last night on YouTube going, oh man, this song's killer. Because you only just released this track. This was just before the one you released today, yeah? It's only been out.
So it probably came out like a week ago or maybe 2. I think we're the sum total of 12 streams.
You're so prolific. It blows me away how much you put out. Because you did a song too with Thomas Gillane as well. He's one of my favorite artists. You did some vocals for him, yeah?
Yeah, that feels like a lifetime ago.
I
Now.
know.
I've done so much with so many people, but yeah, what was that called? Bloodline, I think it was called.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that was a cool track as well.
Yeah. Are you in the market to do collabs with people? Is that something that you're up for? Or you...
I am, but so the problem I have is I get asked to do a lot, right?
Yep.
Yep. And I mean a lot. And I'm also I'm quite picky over who I want to work with. And I mean, every now and then, if I've got time, I'll just take on anything. But I mean, what I've also got to consider is that I've put a lot of time into, I suppose, my Spotify profile and all that sort of stuff. And so you can't really have stuff on there that's completely outlined.
Yep.
So anything you do is sort of still got to conform with what you're already doing. Otherwise, it'll just, I mean, I've spent so long trying to curate a following on Spotify to then chuck something in that's either not of a particularly good standard or completely outside of the normal realms of the stuff that you've been doing. It's really damaging.
Yeah.
It only takes one song. You could lose, a decent proportion of your followers. So I am up for doing these sort of things, but generally speaking, I tend to do it with, I suppose, people that are further ahead than I am.
Yep.
So producers that are hitting stuff with labels or with smaller. I've done a few songs with smaller labels based over in Israel, and I tend to charge as well. That's the other thing, because I don't have much time. So, I mean, I was on Fiverr for a while, and I did loads of really cool stuff: radio adverts, kids' books, protest songs. And again, that got me through COVID. That's how I made a living during that whole sort of time. But again, to a certain point, I did so much of it that when I got a chance to not do it again, it was quite nice not working on other people's songs all the time. But yeah, so to summarize, I do it, but it's got to be either really good or pay well.
Absolutely. Hey, your time is worth money. Your time is valuable. It is. Everyone knows I'm the worst collab, so I just never do it. Because when I do, I always let everyone down. And it just is what it is. I'm going to hit you with the last question before we go out today, because I know Pete Johns has just vanished out of the room. He's got his Creator Town Hall coming up next. And for those of you who are watching here, if you've got your autoplay set on YouTube, as soon as this stream's ended, it'll dump you over straight to Pete's channel with the How to App on iOS dump feature, where we like to dump people. Not in the shit, over at Pete's channel. So I'm going to hit you with the last question that I hit everyone with. If somebody was considering becoming creative, when would you suggest be the time to start?
Now. I don't think you can become creative, can you? And I don't think there's anyone that's not creative. I think there are people that struggle to be creative and people that struggle to find an outlet in which they can generate that creativeness. But I think creativeness is an inherent human trait. It's how we figured out how to use tools. It's why we went and found out what was over that ridge and what lives in the sea and everything else. So everyone is creative. You've just got to find what it is that instigates that creativity.
Absolutely. And, I hear people all the time go, I don't know how you can be so talented and do that kind of stuff. And it's like, but you are too. Like, there's things people do that you don't realize that I can't do. Like, people think that, but I don't sing in a band. It's like, yeah, but you do. You're an amazing gardener. All these creativity is beyond music and film and all this stuff that we consume,
Yeah, completely. So it's, I think people feel pressure. And as well as that, I think people feel pressure to, if they do anything creative, they feel like they need to be really good at it.
Yeah.
Like, why? If you enjoy it, what does it matter?
Absolutely.
You don't necessarily like I know that some of us will, like you and myself, have probably pushed it to extremes in terms of trying to make our stuff of an extremely high quality and all that sort of crap. But there are plenty of people that are happy to spend a couple of hours, knock something together, and it's just a bit of a laugh. And that's no less creative than me spending 10 hours on something. It's just, horses for courses.
100%. Couldn't agree more. James, Timms, I want to thank you so much for coming on here and shooting the shit with me today. See what I did there? And sharing a little bit about your creative process, your history, and the great music that you make. I'm sure everybody in the chat will agree. And if you do, folks, put his emoji in the chat right now. Flood the chat with James's emoji right now. Do it as fast as you can and bang it out there. I also want to just quickly thank DistroKid for the support that you guys give me on this channel all the time, for allowing me to do an interview a month with a fantastic artist. So thank you, DistroKid. Remember, guys, you can do the DistroKid link down in the description, VIP/Jade Starr, and you get 7% off your DistroKid. There's Thomas, who's put the link up there. Look, Thomas, you rock. Thank you very much. The irony, Thomas does a show called You Rock and he rocks. So thank you so much, James. Thanks, everybody, for being here today and supporting, as always, in the chat. Anything you want to say to people before we get the hell out of here today, James?
No, just thanks. I know a lot of you guys have actually been involved in sort of actually writing these songs, because I spam these groups a lot in terms of going from demo stage to progressing to the vocals and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, thanks to everyone for putting up with all the crap I throw in front of you, and long may it continue.
Thank you so much for making the great music that you make. I really love your music and you rock. Please hang on the line because I'll have a chat afterwards. We'll go out today with Aging is for the Old. I think it says it all, the title right there. And I'll see you all on the weekend, where I'm doing a karaoke song on Saturday for those living in the past. And I'm singing some 80s stuff. Boom. Good times. Love the 80s. All right, let's do it. Thank you very much. Remember, do the things that make you happy. Mistakes make you better, and we all rise together. See you later, everybody. Bye-bye.
Yes.
Boom.
Take a chance to roll the dice. We'll take a chance to roll the dice. We'll take the world by the shoulder. And for tonight, who cares if we get older? We'll leave a mark, so take a chance to roll the dice. We'll take a chance to roll the dice. We'll take the world by the shoulder. And for tonight, who cares if we get older? We'll leave a mark, so take the world by the shoulder, live for tonight. Who cares if we get older? We'll leave a mark, and so we'll let it. We'll feel we want. Who gives a shit? Oh, oh, oh.